Welcome to the Thursday stream, everyone. How are you all? How's your week been so far? I had a really good day. I worked together with my colleague and we solved this tricky bug and it all went really smooth, and yeah, I feel very productive. So good times for me. Let me put up my notes. Which actually, once again, I don't have notes. But what I did is I have my Streamlabs set up, right? And I kind of have like this preview of my stream right there. And if I pull it up, I'm gonna keep looking at it. So, camera, there you are. All right. How is everyone doing so far? I hope you all had a good week. At the beginning of the week, I was really struggling with kind of negativity. Like, I was getting a lot of negative news all around the world and reading about like a lot of toxic things happening, like toxic communities who are actively like bullying, harassing people, and I was just really like feeling it, like there's just so much shit out there, you know? There's just so many people being mean for like no reason. Just people being selfish jerks for no reason. And I had it for a bit. So I'm just trying to narrow my scope. Don't look at the news as much. You know, I hope everyone who's watching this, who's in the US or Canada, in the Northwest over there, is safe. Because there's some freaking apocalyptic weather happening there, and I hope you all are okay and your pets are okay and your loved ones are okay, but it's scary and I don't want to think about it too much. It's, yeah, like that is affecting me, just thinking about the climate and being like scary stuff. Talking about scary stuff, what about them boundaries, huh? I was asking on Twitter if y'all had any suggestions, and my partner Flynn suggested that I talk about boundaries, and they mentioned like specifically boundaries in the context of being neurodivergent and being in a relationship. So that's a more specific topic, but I haven't really talked about boundaries like in this segment before, so I thought we would start out kind of, what are they? How do you sense them? Like, how do you establish them? How do you respect it when someone else indicates a boundary? How do you handle boundaries? Like, so I feel like that would be a good start before we dive into like more specific topics that come from boundaries. Speaking of, my partner Flynn is here. Welcome, my love. Welcome to the stream, and thank you for the suggestion. So boundaries, how, what, why. I think like I didn't come up with talking points, as you do. So let's talk like what is a boundary? I mean, for most people this will be obvious, but basically it's a line, it's a limit that is for a person. It's like a no, this is not good. And everyone has their boundaries, and boundaries are different for everyone. So like people will have a lot in common because we're humans and we're similar. And boundaries are a very important part of having a relationship with yourself and having relationships with others. And it's very important to learn what your boundaries are and how to communicate those, and also how to respond when people respond to you indicating them. So, and then there's a part of responding and when someone else indicates their boundary. And all of this is stuff that I had to learn in therapy, and I did. Also, welcome Ebony M Shadow. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing? How has your day been so far? We are talking about boundaries. Also, I dyed my hair, if you hadn't noticed. It's a red purple. It's a really beautiful shade. I wish it'd been more purple, but I guess I'll have to bleach my hair to do that. So I'll just stick with this shade for now. So boundaries. I was thank you so much, Ebony. Oh, well, hold on. I forgot to turn on captions. So here we go. This should do it. Let me see. Microphone. That should do it. All right, done. Are the captions working now? Are they working? All right, I'm gonna reload the page. So I had closed captions set up because I want to be more inclusive. So let's start. All right, looks good now. And a bonus is that with this closed caption plugin that I'm using, there's a cat. You can actually select a font that is useful for dyslexic people. I think it's called like the Open Dyslexic font. Oh yeah, plus bonus on accessibility because that was important. Hey kitty, you want to come sit? You want to come? No, she's sitting exactly outside of you, so that's great. Come on. Want to sit? Come on. Nope, no go. Maybe she'll just walk behind me again. So boundaries. I really had to learn in therapy what those are, how to detect them, what to do with them. So I remember an event in therapy that really established for me what those were, and it's hard to describe, but someone just pointed out like, hey, you can actually you just sensed a boundary. And this does kind of tie into being autistic, because autistic people are just, from a very young age, we're just taught that our boundaries don't matter and don't exist. So I came into therapy and I did not know how to sense that a boundary for me was being crossed. And we had this exercise where you had like a line of people on one side of the room, a line of people at the other side of the room, and you had like your person, like you were in a pair, and this person had to slowly walk towards you, and then you had to say stop when you felt that they were close enough. So this was definitely like a physical boundary exercise. And what I thought is that I wanted this person to become close, but then I learned to sense in my body like, whoa, I'm not comfortable with them coming closer. And I said stop. And that was the first time I could sense that I had a boundary and that I could speak it and that the other person would respect it. So that was like a huge thing for me. And I remember, you know, the rest of this exercise, we did a lot of different things. And at some point I crossed a boundary for myself when I had to tell someone else what to do. So this other person was blindfolded and I had to like kind of guide them around. And for some reason, this was hugely upsetting to me. And I was like, I can't do this. So that's a boundary. And they were just like, all right, just sit there and feel what you're feeling. And I was like, these are two new things. I detected the boundary and I was taught that you can just feel your emotions. So this therapy just taught me so much. And oh wait, what's going on? What's going on in the background? There we go. Don't fade to yellow. I'm still talking here. All right, so that was the first time that I learned how to sense boundaries, and that, you know, there was like an ongoing theme in this therapy. It's just people asking you, hey, how are you feeling? Is this okay for you? And for the first time, I learned to ask myself this, is this okay for me? And I found that in a lot of situations, I would first say, no, it's fine. And then later on, I'd be like, wait, maybe this isn't fine. Maybe I actually dislike this. Maybe I'm not okay with this. Maybe I need more time, more space. Maybe I need to ask more questions. So that told me that in my entire life, I've always been telling people that it's okay, I'm fine with it. don't worry about it, when actually I was not okay with that. And that is exactly the kind of thing that gets you really depressed or angry or anxious. Um, you burnt out. So that was one of the essential parts I learned in therapy, is to sense boundaries and state them. And this is still very hard for me. It's gotten a lot easier over the years. So the way I am now, I definitely pick up when a boundary's been crossed really fast, and that takes a lot of practice. It takes like just kind of sensing in your body what you're feeling, because often your body just already goes, you freeze, you tense up, and in your mind you often go like, no, I don't want to do that. But you do have to listen to yourself. You have to listen to your body. You have to listen to your like internal kind of dialogue and actually feel that you are not okay with things. And then the next scary step, once you are at the point where you're sensing like something is not okay for you, is to actually say it. And that is really scary as well. So, and because my partner's here, I'm gonna tell them like, there's someone who I know that I can just say whatever's going on and I know they will respect my boundary. And that's such a huge thing. And it's very important to have people around you who will listen to what you're saying and will respect whenever you say that something's not okay. Yeah, so Flynn's saying, I spent a lot of years being really depressed and angry because people violated boundaries and frustrated that communicating what I needed did not work. Yeah, this was a toxic workplace, toxic social circles where people understood, but they got off on violating boundaries. So yeah, so that's a great example of people being really toxic. And at some point, even when you say that something is not okay for you, you're telling people to stop and they keep going, that's like a huge red flag. That's a relationship or a friendship or a workplace that you need to get out of, because it will damage you in the long run. And it's a good thing you're mentioning anger, because I feel like that is often the first feeling you get when your boundaries are being crossed and you're not aware of it. So before I spoke about sensing your own boundaries, but let's say you have a lot of trouble sensing these boundaries beforehand, then you usually notice after they're being crossed that you're very angry or very upset or very sad, but often anger is the dominant emotion. That is usually a sign that something happened that was actually not okay for you. You can take that emotion and think about that and realize, oh wait, what was it? What actually happened that wasn't okay for me? And then next time something like that comes up, you know, hey, I learned before that this was not cool and I need to say something. And the thing is, yeah, if people don't respect you stating that you're not okay with something, then you have to step away. And this is often a really difficult thing to do, especially if these are people you depend on. If this person is your partner, if this person is an employer, because, you know, your financial stability, kind of a big thing. If this person has power over you, like your employer, or a parent, a family member who is, you know, it's a lot easier to end a friendship than end a relationship with a parent. That's huge. And often you have to find a way to decrease or like increase the distance, or just kind of step away from people who are not respecting your boundaries. And like there's that just takes like a lot of work. So if this is something you're struggling with, if you find that you are in a toxic relationship, friendship, or your relationship with a family member or workplace, I definitely encourage you to see a professional. I'm not a professional therapist. Everything I say comes from my own experience. I have no professional training in psychology, and I always tell people, if you're listening to this and this like strongly affects you, please go see a professional, go see your GP, get a referral. And if you find yourself in a like really upsetting crisis situation, or someone you love is in a crisis situation, call the emergency number and they can help you. Because I'm not a professional. Like, I cannot, I'm not like, I'm not legally allowed to deal with this. Like, how would you phrase that? Like I said, I'm speaking from my experience, and don't completely rely on me or anything. I'm just kind of here to share what I've been through and what I know, kind of steer people maybe in the direction of getting help or figuring things out and just learning bits and pieces and taking that further. So that's what I'm about. So yeah, what are we doing? All right, so let's say that you've sensed the boundary and now you want to speak, now you want to say it. So that's, for me, I really struggle with that. It almost feels like it's getting like stuck in my throat, and I have to go like, okay, you really have to say it, and I'm practicing saying it. And then I feel like I have to find like space in the conversation to say it. So that is something that requires practice, and it's something that you have to keep practicing. It's like a skill. It's communication is not as easy as people make it out to be, but it helps that if you are talking to someone who you know will give you space. Yeah, fear of rejection is a huge part of that. It's what if I say this? Like, is it like I'm rejecting them? Like, for a very simple example, let's say someone cooks food for you and the food you're eating is something that makes you gag, like you hate it. Especially for neurodivergent people who do have food texture sensitivities, this can be a really troubling thing because you want to do the socially acceptable thing and just eat the food and be nice about it. But even though you know it might make you sick, because for neurodivergent people, for autistics specifically, eating food that is a texture aversion will make you feel worse mentally and physically for a longer time after eating it. So how would you do that? It would be really difficult to say, okay, well, I'm sorry, but I can't eat that, because that's not just about I just say, like, it's a more socially complex situation than other types of boundaries, and that would be really scary. Like, you're not just rejecting someone, you're rejecting their food and their effort, and oh my god. But I feel like in this instance it's still important to kind of indicate that this is difficult for you. So that's how you can start talking. Wow. I'm gonna take a drink. Don't worry, it's just water. Yeah, it's become more common for people to ask when you can or will not eat before you come to dinner. Yeah, so like on the topic of food, you could say like, okay, well, thank you for making this for me. I struggle with eating this or that, or I have some food sensitivities. So not like outright go like, no, I can't, bye. You know, you can kind of like start the conversation. Like, I have trouble eating this. And you might even say like, I'm willing to give it a try, only if you feel comfortable with that. Or you can say, I'm really sorry, but I have so much trouble eating this that I can't, but I'm really grateful for you for making this for me. Like, there's ways you can kind of, I would say, soften the blow a little bit. And this also really depends on this other person. So if they react in a very toxic way, if they're like, no, you have to eat this, or they get like really upset, that's also a sign that it's not just about you. So that's like the third part I wanted to talk about. Okay, so you've sensed the boundary, you've indicated this boundary, and now you're waiting on this other person to react. And that's kind of out of your control. You don't know how they're gonna respond. And people can respond in all sorts of ways. And the thing you have to watch out for is if they become upset in some way, or they get very emotional and in this way kind of manipulate you to cross those boundaries, and this is not okay. So if you say no to someone, it's very possible that they're dealing with their own issues, and you indicating a boundary comes across as a big rejection of them, and that might affect them in their issues. But the thing you have to realize is that you're not responsible for their issues. It's not your job to like smooth that over and like make sure they're all feeling happy. You did the thing where you indicated your boundaries and you were clear about this, and all you can do is reassure them that it's not personal, it's really about you. And that's it. Like, they might be very upset, but you have to try very hard to not let that affect your boundaries. Like, they're there, you stated them, and you have to keep them there, and that is really hard. Because there's a lot of people out there who also have issues, who are gonna try kind of push at those boundaries, and you have to be consistent. And the positive thing I found is that a lot of people also really appreciate those boundaries. So that's one thing I learned dealing with my parents. Because of my childhood, I had a very fraught relationship with my parents. But the thing was, I was also always constantly overstepping my own boundaries. I was always trying to adapt to them. And once I had therapy and I realized, wow, I'm a grown adult and I can just tell them what is and is not okay, and I worked up the courage to say it, my parents actually responded very positively. Like, they were happy that I was explaining to them what is and isn't okay, and I found that they actually respected those boundaries. And at times where they struggled to do that, also because of old behaviors, I would state it again, and eventually I kind of taught them how to treat me better. And vice versa, they also became more comfortable with stating things to me like, oh, I'm having trouble with this, or this isn't okay for me. So our relationships really, like between me and my parents, really improved as a result of me stating my boundaries and kind of teaching them that it's okay for them to do the same. And yeah, it proves that they wanted to have a good relationship with you. Yeah. So I feel like in general, stating your boundaries and respecting others when they state their boundaries, it kind of, you teach each other that you are safer people and that you are okay people. And it really kind of improves a lot of relationships. And that's what I found. And that's why boundaries are so important. And a very common trauma response is to not indicate your boundaries, or indicating your boundaries and not really having a good conversation about it, or pushing other people to overstep their boundaries. So I feel like that's a conversation you have to keep having. And if you find that you are struggling with this, once again, I would say go into therapy, because therapy is the best thing anyone can ever do for themselves. And just learn how to set your own boundaries, how to communicate them, and how to deal with other people stating their boundaries. Yeah, I want to hear this because I want to treat you right. And that is, yeah, that's kind of basis of being a good person, is realizing, hey, I want to be nice to this other person. I don't want to hurt them. But if you don't know their boundaries and they don't state their boundaries, you might end up hurting them. So that's another very important component, is if you are the kind of person who doesn't state their boundaries, who always says, no, it's okay, it's fine, don't worry about it, I'm good, I'm fine, and you never tell someone no, and you never tell someone how you actually feel and if something is or isn't okay for you, then they end up hurting you because you didn't tell them that something was not okay for you. So how would they know? They can't read your mind. So part of being a safe person is also telling people when something is and isn't okay with you. So yeah, mistakes happen. It matters what you do with the feedback. So it's a back and forth. So you have to state your boundaries and they have to state theirs. That's how you can get a healthy, good social relationship. That was a long and intense talk. All right, let me pour myself some water. Also, thank you, Ebony, for contributing to the Dark Souls 3 challenge. Which, we got a long way to go, but that's kind of the point. Hey, Ghibli, welcome to the stream. How are you doing? How's your week been so far? We are just about to jump into Mass Effect. So, let's get to it. let's hop on over to Mass Effect.